where's my greatest return on investment going to come from? Is it an area of my strength or an area of my weakness? And research shows areas of strength grow. You have the most potential for growth in your areas of strength because you can grow beyond just being average or even above average. You can grow to world-class excellence.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving whatever problem Cam did just notice as I was saying the intro. Because folks, those of you watching on YouTube, yep, you'll look at Camden's face and go, what the hell just happened? What?
No, just interface for Riverside was being slightly different and just, our creatures of habit and all.
I know.
My pop-up wasn't the exact same, and
yeah.
There you go.
that has to be one of the most irritating things out there. All you IT people updating our stuff to make it better for us, and then it's different. Dang gum, it's different.
I don't like change.
I don't know.
Who does?
Like change. I mean, change is scary. It's hard.
It's just like I had the conversation this weekend. Jessica wants to buy new pillows. And she said, look, it'll be better for your neck. Yeah, but it's different. That's the problem. I'm used to this pillow. All right. It's going to be different. Well, but you'll be better. Yeah, I probably will. But I won't like it for about 2 or 3 days. I'm going to complain a lot. I can tell you that much.
Oh, yeah. Believe me, I've lived through many and institutional directed change. I could fill a couple of podcasts up with the change stories that I've been through, which leads me to Kathy joining us, our good friend Kathy, fellow Aggie. Don't get to say that a whole lot on our show for some reason. I ain't going to call him out, but Mr. Knucklehead, who couldn't do his calendar yesterday, will get on the show eventually. We'll talk about who he is in the green room later.
You Aggies and your technology, come on.
I'm decent at it.
Well, we were talking about change. The thing with change, as much as we all don't like it, don't want to do it, strength comes from change, doesn't it? And Kathy is a strength finder. Does that mean that you go push somebody and say, hey, stop doing bench press on Tuesdays. You need to switch them up to Wednesdays and do the bench press after you do the tricep extension? Is it that? I mean, of course, whenever I think of strength, I'm a recovering gym rat. So strength always goes to that. I know yours is different. So is that part of it though? I mean, in the literal sense?
Sure, that there's some element to that, but when we talk about strengths and let's say muscles, we're not talking about the biceps, we're talking about the brain. And so I am a strengths coach. Thank you, Otis and Cam, for inviting me to be a part of this podcast. My name's Kathy Kersten. I'm a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach, and I help leaders build teams of strong players. I help leaders build strong teams. And I do that by utilizing a framework called CliftonStrengths, aka Strengths Finder, most well known as Strengths Finder by the 37 million people who've taken it so far. And I was delighted to meet Otis early January in one of my strengths workshops, in which I learned about him and his strengths. And then I'm super excited to be here with you guys today to talk about strengths and teams and how we can help leaders leverage other people's strengths.
Is it possible to stay in that metaphor?
It can in this.
Change the routine.
Yeah, let's talk about this. So a strength, I guess an easy definition of a strength is something you're good at, something that you have a natural pattern of talent for, right? But you can build strength by investing in the strength, time and effort. And so if we stay within the metaphor, you're going to see where you might have a talent in an area, and then you can bolster it through time and effort, like spending time practicing. Okay. In the gym rat, it might look like doing lots of push-ups and studying your form. And then the effort piece is adding more weight to it. Okay. And building the muscle through spending time in that muscle and then also adding weight to it. And so I guess it could stay in that metaphor. And if you wanted to shift your strengths, just like in the gym, you rotate to a new tool, a new area where you want to grow in strength.
With that, it brings to mind one of the things, talking about strength, I always think it's interesting of the idea of, fixing and covering up, patching up our weaknesses, and then also building on top of the strengths there. I guess while we're in the gym analogy there, Dad, the gym rat, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger, you always talk about the puny calves, right?
Wow,
that comes to mind, right?
Wow. This is a proud dad moment.
I've only been doing this show for 6 years with you. You think I had heard the story 4 times?
I may mention Arnold maybe once a quarter or more.
Yeah.
So with that, the Arnold Schwarzenegger example of, making himself look at the puny calves because it was his worst feature and he wanted to fix it so bad. There's that approach to it. There's also the idea of like, hey, if I'm really freaking good at something, I'm going to build my strengths on it. And then if no one can beat me there, then it doesn't really matter what's going on with it. To take that example, I love the UFC. Dad, you think of the Khabib, when Khabib was a champ, and Islam Makhachev in the same train of thought of like, hey, are they really good strikers? No, they probably work on their striking. They probably try to get better, but also like, dude, if no one can out wrestle me, then I'm just going to keep working on that and I'm going to beat everybody right there, right? So there's a couple different paths that you can take with it. What are your thoughts there, Kathy, on how to balance those two schools of thought?
One of my strengths, so there's a strength called maximizer in StrengthsFinder language. And I think about return on investment. What is going to give me the biggest return on investment? Working on an area of a weakness in which I can grow. Right? I'm a growth-minded person, so I believe you can grow in anything you invest in. But where's my greatest return on investment going to come from? Is it an area of my strength or an area of my weakness? And research shows areas of strength grow. You have the most potential for growth in your areas of strength because you can grow beyond just being average or even above average. You can grow to world-class excellence. Okay. And so, there's some things that I'm weak in and I need to grow in general, but then there's some things where I'm like, I could be recognized as world-class in. And so as a maximizer, there's really not a lot of negotiation in my brain of how to spend my time and effort. And as business people, we partner with people like this all the time. I don't love math. I don't love doing my taxes. I don't love, do you guys love that? No. Can I do it? I'm sure I could. Would it take me 4 times the amount of time? No. Yes, it would. That it would take someone who's naturally talented at it and has an eye for, making profit and loss statements look beautiful. Sure. So go give that work to them and let me fill my time up with the things that make me feel like a rock star or make me feel like a exceptional performer in those areas. And so, but I see the need sometimes, right? I think of if I were to step out of the bodybuilding world, guys, okay, and let's step into the engineering world for a moment. Mm-hmm. If there's a world-class engineer who can creatively design the most amazing piece of software, piece of hardware, whatever it is, but then isn't able to sell the need of that piece of software, hardware, or build a team around her or him to help build it and gain traction in a different area of the marketplace, then what was the point of the software or the hardware, right? So oftentimes engineers look at this and say, well, I'm great at designing and building. It's the relationship part I need. And I'm like, okay, so it's not a strength. So we have to get it up to a certain level of competency, but we don't have to make it a strength.
I want to stay in that frame of thought of world-class maximizer. And folks, if you want to get a little smile on your face, go to Kathy's website, and scroll down on her about page. There's a picture of her wearing her Maximizer t-shirt. In case you doubt, that's what she is. But how do you measure world class, or even go back to our engineer, because that's why I love the gym, because I could measure it, right? And now I'm an engineer because I got a piece of paper that says F from Texas A&M. Now I'm an engineer, but I need to get my relationship up. How do I measure those things? Now I'm a world class maximizer. Now I'm an okay relationship builder.
I think measuring it is, in a very data-driven world, I think it'd be kind of hard to do. That's why we refer to some of the things that I'm talking about as soft skills, because it's hard to measure, but you can see it happening in productivity. You can see it happening in leverage in groups. Okay. And so I think I'm always chasing what a metric I'm chasing when with the teams that I'm working with is a golden team moment. Okay. So let's talk about this. Golden team moment is when everyone on the team is feeling valued. They're clear on their roles. They're working together to help each, not only for themselves to be successful, but for their teammates to be successful. And they're clear on the vision or the mission of the team. I can imagine it happens on the rugby field. I can imagine it happens in the military. I can have, it happens on executing this podcast today, how you guys, I've done some research before I came. I see how you split up your podcast parts. Everybody knows their role, and everybody can lean in on how to show up in that moment. And that's what I think is world class. And then if you are wanting to be known for something, pick an area of a strength so that others can easily see you being excellent at it. And they start calling you for it, right? They tap into it for you. And so these are all some of those areas where we can sit back and reflect as leaders and say, what are those things in my life? And maybe that's what I'm starting to measure. And then you can measure things like frequency, profitability against it, thinking about how often am I utilizing this in partnerships and roles that I have in my life. And that's where you get more data, I guess, Otis, so to speak, but it's really hard to measure. It's not as easy as moving up from 50 pounds on this bicep to 75.
That's right.
I'd love to kind of drill in on that specialty piece there, because that's an interesting piece. I got that advice from Coach Duffy here at U of A talking about rugby of hey, pick your thing that you're going to be great at, because it gives you something to sell yourself as, right? Even if you want to be well balanced doing everything for the team, you still need this thing that's your branding statement right there, right? Could you talk some about how that's so important? And because I think for a lot of folks, they would think it's well, if I have these 5 skills, I want to focus on all of these, but it's come on, you're going to list 5 things for me to remember, Kathy? No. What's your one thing that you're really freaking good at? And there's a lot of logic behind that. So could you kind of expand on the specialty value, or the value of the specialty?
Well, I think that there's a whole lot of talents in the world, and we can be good at a lot of things. Okay, the spectrum of things you can be good at is broad. And then if you want to be exceptional or world class in a certain area, you should specialize. It doesn't necessarily mean that you won't do these other things. It's just you want to be called on for that one thing. Now that really resonates with me because, like I said, I have Maximizer, and I joke around. I wear that t-shirt to workshops every once in a while, and I joke around and say it's a warning label. It's not just a t-shirt, it's a warning label. It's on my packaging. I always am looking for optimization. Now, think about being a specialty player, right? And then and the more crisp that you are able to articulate it, the quicker people, the faster, more efficiently people are able to leverage you. And so, I think it's a strategic play in our careers if we, number one, have self-awareness of that area. And number two, we really enjoy it. It energizes us. It makes us feel fulfilled, very connected. When we're using it, we feel like we're contributing value to the world. And then we have more energy. and we feel like we are more successful. And so it's very similar to a rock band. It's very similar to a sports team. How players, we don't say, "Oh, you're a great quarterback. Can you go now be I don't know enough of the football terminology. The irony is I am married to a former football coach of 17 years. But
hopefully he forgives you when he listens to the show.
He doesn't. He thinks it's enduring. Opposites attract. We don't go ask the quarterback to go be a wide receiver. If he can play that, I think, I often hear dads so proud of their boys who can play multiple positions, right? But there equally is the dad who's like, my kid's the quarterback. My kid's the running back. You can trust my kid to do that job every single day, all day long, right? And so there's different plays for different reasons, and I think that works. But from Kathy Kersten's angle, I'm like, find your value proposition. You might call it a personal brand, but I think it's like a value proposition, and lead with it so that others can tap into it easier.
I want to drill into that example, actually, because I think it's really, really interesting. There's, I've seen the same thing in rugby where, there's a value to being like a utility player is what we usually call it, right? That you can fill all of these different positions. That's a great way to find your way into a team, right? And as a coach, I always want guys working different positions to be ready for whatever may come. I might need to move you somewhere else, right? That being said, it's great for us right now, but it's terrible. And I think that gets to your point. It's terrible for like next level selection. That it has a ceiling. Like I can have a utility player who can play 5 different positions for me, and he's always going to be in our match day roster. He's going to be a huge impact for the team. I'm always going to remember that player. That being said, being pretty darn good at 5 different positions doesn't get you selected to an All-American. Right? You have to be able to stand up and have that specialty there. How do you balance those two? And maybe we shift from the sports world more into the business world, because I could see that value too of like that kind of jack of all trades type person that can hit all these different things. They help you in all these different areas, but they lose that kind of like value proposition there. Does it matter as much in the business world? Because, we're not competing to go be all-American and, CEOs or whatever. Like, we do have just this team here. So I could see that utility players still having more value inside of that environment. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm tracking with you. And so when we have to play different roles, that requires us to zoom away from one strength. How I kind of led in this part of this conversation that Kathy Kersten's a maximizer, but then we start to zoom out. And then we also see, okay, wait, what else? What is she beyond her top 5 strengths, her top 10 strengths, her top 15 strengths? Because in the Strengths Finder language, and this is again an assessment that people can take, and it helps build self-awareness, you start to look at how else can I leverage these talents I have in order to get the job done. Other aspects you would add to this transition from a utility player to a more generalized player or the next level player. I mean, some of that has less to do with your talent and more to do how you're leveraging the people around you and gaining feedback and learning skills that will help you be successful in the next role, the ways that you are coachable. And so some of those things are also applied in the work that I do in helping people kind of see themselves for who they are, understand if they have any blind spots, invest in their growth to get to be at the next level that they're aiming for. But it's not an abandonment of their strengths. It's what strengths do you have that you can play on, leverage to move to the next role? Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Another strength that I think is really incredible is the strength of achiever. So there's, and I think Otis, you might have achiever. I should have looked. I know you have responsibility number 1. I feel like achiever was number 2 for you, but achievers are really good at digging in and being tenacious in their own growth and the ability to accomplish something. They don't give up easily. They're very task-oriented, accomplishment-oriented. They go and they get the thing done. Now that can apply all over the business world. right? It's not tied to a role. It's not tied to a job title. That is a strength, an area of innate talent, a pattern of behavior that someone can utilize everywhere. And that's going to help you lifelong.
Well, they're the people that have the list. They get the thrill out of putting a tick marker, lining it out.
Yes, they do.
The ones who, when they look at their list and they go do something and they realize that something wasn't on the list and they write it on the list so they can line it out. Oh yeah, that's those people. I graduated out of that point of life.
But I bet you didn't graduate with every day kind of starts at zero, whether you're at your home in Colorado, or you're at your ranch. Like, you have a little bit of a to-do list in your head. Today, I'm going to go fix that fence. Today, I'm going to go cut firewood. Today, I'm going to go spend 3 hours in the deer lease. I'm going to drink a glass of champagne or excuse me, whiskey. That'd be yours. At the end of the day,
you
right?
wouldn't see Otis drinking champagne. I can tell you that.
Kathy would. But you still have those to-dos, even if they're less concrete, so to speak, on a piece of paper. But yeah, you feel good when you have accomplished it.
Oh yeah. And you know, one of the things that I like about these sort of things is it helps people define what their authentic self is, because we're all more comfortable. I mean, that's really what you were talking about, is we all are more comfortable being in our authentic self, whether it's in the gym or in the lab or the workshop or a sales call. If we need to be authentic, it's easier. That's the irony of it. I've always thought. And when you use these strength finders, now people can look at them 5 words or 10 words and go, oh yeah. I mean, because what I'm kind of curious about it is, have you ever had anybody get that list back, you know, the results, and go, huh, that ain't me.
I do.
Yeah.
There's a strength. I've got lots of stories because I've been fortunate to work with thousands of people at this point. But one story that stands out to me is a young woman who, reading through her report in one of my workshops, there was probably 25 people in the room. She's reading through her report in the quiet reflection time of my workshop. She raises her hand. I go over and she says, this relator, this strength called relator, this is not me. I'm reading through this. This doesn't sound like me. It describes her as genuine, enjoys deep relationships, has enduring friendships. And I said, okay, tell me what part feels like it's not resonating. And she said, deep relationships. Like, I don't have deep friendships. And I said, okay, tell me more. And she said, actually, I don't have any friends. My family is my friend. Like, I spend most amount of my time with my family. And I sat there and I said, okay, keep talking to me about this. And what I start recognizing, because I've seen patterns in other people before, she has a really high bar of who she calls a friend. Okay. And she told me a story of grade school, and it brought the picture so clear to me. In grade school, she cried, and she went home crying one day and said, Mom, I don't have any friends at school. So concerned mom calls teacher and says, my daughter says she doesn't have any friends at school. Teacher says, oh, she's got friends. Okay. But, you know what? I'm going to mix up the seating chart. And so we'll get her by some people she wants to sit with. And I won't make it a big deal. We're just going to do this. I'll do like a little fun activity. So the teacher next day has everybody pull out a sheet of paper and number 1, 2, 3. We're going to move you into groups. Okay. We're going to move these tables around. On your paper, write down the 3 people you would like to sit with. The daughter, who was concerned she had no friends, wrote one person down, happened to be her cousin. Everyone else, the majority of the other people in the room, particularly the girls in the room, all wrote her name down on their list. And so I said, is it possible that others find you warm, genuine, authentic, caring, slightly quiet, but kind, and that you are perceiving them as strangers, acquaintances, coworkers, co-students, and in your grown-up years, right? Fellow classmates in college, coworkers, colleagues, right? But really, this is what friendship feels like, and you just have a really high bar of who you call a friend, and she was like, yes, and that's really what it is. From her, so people perceive her as a friend. She doesn't perceive others as friends. Does that make sense? And so that was an awareness moment. I thought, well, just start calling some of these folks your friends. Invest the time. And that is the coaching aspect of it. Because to coach a person who has strong relator, what we want them to do is they yearn to be known and to know others. But on some of the more intimate stuff, not like, hey, Cam, what'd you do this weekend? Hey, Cam, what's your hobbies? More like, hey, Cam, tell me about your hopes, your dreams, your ambitions. What was your favorite vacation you ever took and why? Right? Like, it's about intimacy. And I don't think she realized there was a connection to breaking the ice beyond just the surface level stuff. So there's an example of they're like, I didn't know that was me.
You know what? I bet you she's a selfish liker on Facebook too.
What's a selfish liker? Wait, hold on. What's a selfish liker?
Young people that'll sit there and watch your video or say, bring your spouse over, Miss Suzanne. Look at this picture. It's so cool. Oh, man, isn't that cute? Scroll by. No like. I'm like, I called Miss Suzanne now. She ain't no selfish liker anymore.
You've taught her how to give credit to the content creator.
Yes. Yeah, I'm calling people out today. Look out, folks.
Yeah. On that, Kathy, I think it's interesting because I think that, with the CliftonStrengths, I think this is less true, but I think this can be spoken broadly as an observation for like the strengths in general and like the personality, what I would call broadly like the personality test type things, right? That it can fall into, like I joke, it's almost like it can fall into astrology sometimes a little bit of like, I'm a this, therefore, and it's all very like self-fulfilling prophecy. You just connect with what you want there. Could you just make the statement of why this isn't like that? Because I think that for a lot of people, they wear them like that. Like, oh my gosh, who was it we were talking with? They were talking about having their strengths posted on their door and like all these kind of things. And it's like, gosh, that seems like you're doing a lot for a lack of impact there. Like you're carrying forward again. What's that?
Similar thing. It was Myers-Briggs that they posted.
Yeah, that's what it was, the Myers-Briggs. But I think there's this really interesting thing where people can get like almost, like I said, like too into it, and then it becomes this weird. I don't know. I love the example of like the astrology thing there.
Well, you're sort of talking to a person who's built an entire business around it, so I'm like, well, yes. But here's the thing: I would say astrology. I understand. I'm not super into astrology, but I remember reading back. I'm going to date myself. Back when we used to have newspapers delivered to us, where you would actually read like the astrology report, in the cartoon section area where the crossword puzzles were. Okay, and it would fit anyone. Now, and I also know there's a whole lot of people who are like, well, they asked me my sign, and I say Sagittarius. I have no idea what that means. I have no idea what they expect of me. So there's some things that are like so broad stroke, they could make sense for anyone. There are some things that are so specific, they only make sense and resonate with who they resonate with. And so let me give, and I found something very interesting here. Okay. Are you prepared for this, Kim? In this work, I have found people who have really the strength of self-assurance. If they have the strength of self-assurance, which means they're very confident, independent, they know themselves, or they have a true north within themselves. I have found oftentimes all of the strengths descriptions resonate with them. All of them. Okay. And then I have others who read through it and that's just not a common experience that people get from this. Like when I read the words of the strength of discipline, I happen to know it's my number 34 strength. It's like the second to last strength on my report. But when I read through it, it doesn't look like anything in my life. Okay. Because I don't, while I plan ahead, I don't organize my pantry by alphabet. I don't have a color-coded closet. And Otis, we did this example at Texas A&M when you and I met each other. I do not color code my calendar. Matter of fact, I'm completely okay with canceling a meeting and saying, you know what, we don't need to do that anymore. That would drive someone crazy with discipline. And so there's certain things that I'm just like, you just can't. Sure, you could see all these things in yourself because you do have all these things at some element,
right.
But some of them are super strong, and then others are lesser patterns in you, and you got to be aware of it. And I think I kind of joke around to take it a little bit further on that self-assurance thing. I'm like, where is empathy on your list? Like, tell me where empathy is. And they'll say, oh, well, it's number, 34 or at the end or whatever. And I'm like, and you think that you have empathy? And they're like, I think at times I do. And I'm like, what am I thinking right now? Because empathy usually tells people what they're thinking, usually can connect with their emotions, that they put words in their mouth about the emotional experience they're having. And so I kind of play tricks with them and get kind of cheeky.
I love that one. That's such a great example. The person who is so self-confident, so self-assured. It's like, oh yeah, I know what you're thinking. Damn right, I know what you're thinking. You're gonna, and I'm gonna tell you, and that is what you're thinking because I know.
That's right. Or they like to just make a declarative statement, and that's also part of self-assurance is declarative statements, right? Like where they state a feeling like a fact, and they make it seem like we're all in this. And I'm like, that's your perspective. It's just unique. But it could easily fall in that, especially if the tool uses some language like you may enjoy social engagement.
Right.
You will, but they're trying to make it broad so it doesn't paint too big of a picture. Oftentimes I run into people who feel like this is putting them in a box. Less of like worrying that this is astrology or palm reading. I run into that less than I run into more of like, I don't want to be labeled. I don't like being labeled. We're complex. And so that's probably more of a blocker on some of like using this tool is what negative thing is going to happen if I participate in this activity.
Have you found organizations, kind of going back to Camden's discussion of the Myers-Briggs where it's labeled on the door, you are this person. Have you found organizations that have putting people in the box like that and really just don't let them
I think it's
play?
I'm going to say it's a lazy brain way of trying to make sense of this data. This data is supposed to drive dialogue. It is not like black and white where, well, you're analytical and you're nothing else. You can't be relational. You're strategic thinking. You can't be these other things. I mean, it's not, I think lazy brains and that's what labeling is. Like, that's what bias is, right? It's lazy brain activity to try to make someone two-dimensional instead of allowing them to be four-dimensional or even, to be complex. We're complex creatures. Have I seen people use it in a labeling way? Yes. Have I seen whole organizations? No. But I've seen folks who might make a bias against a certain strength. I have the strength of belief in my top 5. I've had an executive not realizing that the person sitting in front of him has belief, not realizing it, say, I'd never hire someone with belief. And I'm like, you already did, buddy. I'm sitting right here in front of you. Because he perceives that belief means I have strong core values that are somewhat unchanging. I have a very strong desire to do what's right. I have and it's sort of black and white to me, what's right and what's wrong. I have I think, Otis, you have belief too. I'm remembering this now. My life is guided by these values and I will fight for them. I have conviction in this. And so he had evidently bumped into someone who was a bad example of belief. And then he pinned it on that strength. Like he saw bad behavior. He pinned it on that strength and then made that strength the thing, the label. And belief shows up in 9 different million ways, because there's or 9 billion different ways, because we all have some element of it. This is simply a common language for what's right with people. Okay. So it's less of a diagnosis of what you'll do. It's just a little bit more of a clearer understanding of like who you are, what makes you unique, what helps you be successful. And it's how you, number one, are aware of it, how you can figure out how to use it, And so I put them on the door. You keep saying they're on the door. Yep. I'm the one who's like printing them and telling people, put them on your doors.
Well,
put
they
them
were
in your
on
email
our name
signature.
placards at A&M. I mean,
They were.
yeah. And there is, I've been a long time firm believer in self-awareness and mindfulness being a skill set, and it provides you another way to become more self-aware. Like I said, when you get your results back, when you take the Strength Finder and you get your results back, it's very rare that somebody's going to go, "Oh my God, that's who I am." No, you're going to go, "Huh, that's interesting. Okay, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, all right."
Typical response.
I want to see if we can utilize the Strengths Finder to help our I don't think we've ever done this, but this is why I wanted you to come on, because I love having these discussions with you. Help that entrepreneur who is starting to build his team.
Yep.
Guide his top 5. How does he use Strengths Finders to maybe start to build out his team? Weaknesses, strengths, whatever.
Yep.
Could you walk us through some, kind of that thought process?
I'd love to. Self-awareness, number 1. Number 2, and what do you love to do? You only have so much time every single day. You have a finite amount of energy. No one is superhuman. So you're limited in time. You're limited in energy. As entrepreneurs, oftentimes we're looking for skills. Like I mentioned, the accountant, that was my very first hire as an entrepreneur. I wanted to get that off my plate quickly. And then there's been other things that I could absolutely do, but they give me zero energy boost, like creating materials or scheduling things or editing a podcast. Like these are things that I could do, but I'm not going to be energized by them. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to be drained by them because they feel like tasks. So you could look at it through the skills lens. And then I think you should look at it through the talent lens and say, who's going to help challenge my ideas? Who's going to help me be a sharper version of myself? And who can I help be a sharper version of them? And so there we might be looking for complementary partnership. If someone is a person who can dive into the details, maybe you want someone who's a little bit more elevated in their visioning, like gets up to the 10,000 foot view and looks about where we're going. And that would be a nice partnership because you're both meeting each other in a middle place. I know oftentimes entrepreneurs by their DNA are risk takers. They usually have strengths. For those familiar with StrengthsFinder language, I usually ask, and if I see futuristic, activator, achiever, if I see those strengths in someone's top 5, I'm like, do you have entrepreneurial and desires? And they're like, yes. Whether they're pursuing them or not, different story. But yes, I do. I've always dreamed of owning my own business. Well, I'll tell you guys, and as you know, founders aren't meant to be technically sustainers. Those strengths are not very good for building a 5,000 person company. Those are really good in getting a 5-person company, 50-person company off the ground and running for a few years. But sustainability is not sexy, right? Startups are sexy to that kind of brain. And so they might want to start partnering with people. Now, so entrepreneurs. So let's just keep moving along that pathway. If you think about, if you're focusing on your own operations all the time, it's very unlikely you are out with business development. I mean, some of this is just sales. You got to think it through that lens of building a business. And what do you want to do? What role do you want to play? and knowing that, and then surrounding yourself with people that are meeting you in those areas. Okay. Now can we like shift it from once you have a team? Can we talk about that a little bit? So 10x your team. I'm like, okay, like how do we 10x your team? Well, and I imagine this has come up on this podcast before, but every team goes through this team development model. And I bet, Cam, you do it with every new season of rugby where you have new players and you're in this forming, storming, norming, and performing, right? Where when we come together, we're just getting to know each other. We're figuring each other out. We're operating out of niceties at times. We're usually over communicating to save ourselves from having any type of misalignment or miscommunication. But the pressure of the competition, the pressure of the business, the pressure of the flux of the economy or marketplace throws us into storming. Okay. And then we start to step on each other's toes. We start to butt heads on direction of projects. We start to have, we start to feel the effects of the ambiguity between what's my role? What's your role? How do I assist you? How do you assist me? Who's responsible for this anyway? Did we even make a decision? I didn't think we made a decision. I thought we were still talking about it. Like all these things start to bubble up. And then usually through amount of time, we naturally figure it out. But if you're wanting to be successful in a short amount of time, like a school year, where you want to go win a championship, or before you're launching a product, you need to like slow down for that slow is smooth and smooth is fast type of operating mentality, right, guys? And then you think, okay, StrengthsFinder helps me see some of your hidden things that are going on in your head that I haven't yet experienced through time. Okay. And then also we build trust. And I know that you folks talk about trust a lot on this podcast, but that's also part of trust is that can I trust you? Most of the time, high performers can trust other high performers to do their job. But can I trust you, fellow high performer, to not hold my weaknesses against me? Or worse, like know what my weaknesses are and that you would help, or, that you wouldn't help me, but that you might sabotage me. Like we're all sort of asking that question. Can I trust you to support me when I need it? Can I trust you? I think the military does a great job of this, of like building these frameworks, but that's where we're norming. We do some norming activities. And then before we know it, we figure this out and we're starting to fire off on all cylinders and we make plays and then we celebrate, we high five and we're like, let's do that again next week. I can't wait to do that again. That was amazing. And then you move into performing, we're going to have more golden team moments, like where we can't believe what we just did, like that's kind of it doesn't just happen on sports fields where we're like high five, like, oh my God, can you believe we just did that? It also happens in the corporate world, right? Whether it's like, can you believe we beat the big the competitor on that deal? Like we really got in there and worked together, undercut them or added one more service or just wooed the client enough that we got them. Like there's all those kind of golden team moments. And I think that's the juice for entrepreneurs. That's the juice for early teams. It's the juice for a sports team where you learn each other that well. And then you're like kind of unstoppable. To a point, right?
Yeah. Well, I just got to put a quote in, Cam, unless you're going to, because she said the magic words. I mean, so at Tribe and Purpose, we add 2 more steps in there in our circle of continuously improving the team, and that's you form, you norm, you storm, and that's flow. That's your calling performance. Then you assess and you adapt, because when you assess what you've done. And then you have to adapt into what we did well and what we didn't do so well. And then you start the cycle all over again because now you just change the outlook. But I think that is great stuff. And Cam, you had something, but I just had to bite my tongue.
You're good there.
Me.
I wanted to ask about the how the headwind and tailwind fallacy plays into this, because I think that's an interesting thing. Of it's like we a lot of the times are completely blind to our strengths and are so focused on our weaknesses, and I guess having them up on the door is probably a pretty good way to make yourself a little bit more aware of what those tailwinds are. But talk to me, Kathy, about how to fight that fallacy there. Yeah.
Oh, it is a okay. Headwinds. Well, when you said that at first, I thought in the business environment, teams that are experiencing headwinds or tailwinds. But if we're talking about the individual, it is being open to feedback. It is about assess and adapt. Like what's working for you, what's not. Do you have trusted advisors to tell you as an individual, a leader, what's working? Just yesterday, I was with a team. And I could tell the team leader sometimes sucks the air out of the room during a team meeting. I'm not pointing that out to them when I'm with the team, but that's a massive tailwind in his leadership journey that he's going to need to assess and address and adapt so that his team can offer more insights. He's a brilliant dude, right? So it's going to take some courage on the team for someone. Well, it's going to take more than this, but someone's going to need to give him some feedback, right? Mm-hmm. And he's going to need to be ready for it and open for it and respectful of it enough to go like, let me try something new. Headwinds, I think, can be, if you're really good at something, you might fall to the temptation that thinking you can be the lone wolf in business, where you're you really don't need anyone around you. I've been tempted in that kind of like in some areas where I'm like, I got this part, I got it. But really like we're better with others' input. And so just slowing down a little bit to say, wait, would I be even better if I had a team, around me? So that's kind of how I interpret your question and where it took my mind to. Mm-hmm. Let me know if you have. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there, which is like I think the cure for the headwind tailwind fallacy is getting outside perspective. And like, hey, I feel I'm experienced this way. This is really difficult. I'm feeling that wind blowing in my face. But then if somebody goes, hey, look how much it's helping you over here, or this piece there. I think outside perspectives really cover a lot of that there. And on perspectives, actually, I want to go back to a question I had at the very beginning here, which we chased a lot of really great rabbits. But we were talking about change and how we sometimes don't like the change. All three of us made that joke. We don't like change. We all three also drive a lot of change inside of our businesses. So clearly there's a little bit of an asymmetry there, right? And I think what it comes down to is that it's like, well, we like the change when it's my change. I just don't like your change coming over here and bothering me, right? How do you think that plays into the team environment of getting that buy-in for the change of, like, hey, this is our weakness. We need to work on these things here. We need to build up these. Okay, then how do you get the team to get bought in to go fix that weakness rather than you just coming in and shaking a finger at them? Because I think that's a trap a lot of people fall into.
It's so good. And I think overall transitions like that are underestimated by the impact they have on teams. I think they're easier said than done, and it takes time and it takes true change management. I'm working this year with two teams that are merging. Their institutions are merging, and it's a slower process in some aspects. Others we're delighted by how quickly things are coming together. And then there's equally, like the very next day, you'll have something like, oh my gosh, we're talking about this again. You keep bumping into those cultural walls and differences. But I would say managing a transition or managing a change is it's not just saying, yes, we're doing it. It's managing it. And one thing that I've been learning lately, guys, that I'm still thinking about, so I'll share my fresh thinking, and I'd love to hear if you have examples or what your thoughts are. But there's a difference between the change starts now and when it starts and when it actually begins. Okay. Mm-hmm. And meaning, like, sometimes people put dates on things, like we're going to roll out this new system February 1. and you're gonna now be expected to no longer use the old system, and now we're using the new system, or we're going to promote you or reorg you into a different group, and then that your start date is March 1st. And is that when you start being the leader of the team, or do you begin being the leader of the team, or does that system begin being thought about to be used as soon as it's announced?
Yes.
Right? And so thinking about when things begin and when things start, those are two different things, because one's an emotional buy-in and one is like technical. And the more we can be tempted to like think more about the concrete technical dates of things and less about the softer side of, the emotional buy-in, that helps these things, the start date actually start, because you've heard the saying, like, everything's changed, but nothing's changed. Right. Yeah. So I sort of grew up in the corporate world in a highly accelerated environment. It was hyper growth. We had an IPO 2 years after I joined the organization. And then it was really fast growth. And we were constantly changing, but there were certain things that I'm like, we've always done it this way. And we have that sacred cow that we're never going to change that. Yet it feels like everything's changed. So it's hard. It's a science, it's an art and a science. It's all I want to that's kind of what I want to end on. What say you?
I think that's spot on.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some smart ass way of replying to the what say I, but I don't remember how to say that. But I will tell you.
Is that I am Spartacus or different thing?
No, that's a good question. There's some backyard research, but what came to mind, and as you were talking about that, and a couple of things. Well, one of my favorite books, Leading Change, is so great. Highly recommend it. The other thing, as you were talking about it, because it's so true, because one of my give backs to the veteran tribe is coaching guys that are getting out of uniform. And there's no bigger transition in life to somebody who spent their first 20 years of adulthood or more doing nothing but military stuff. And now they're going to take everything changes on this date. But the change happens well before that date. And that's such a great way of thinking about it, that, you've got the date, because what do most of them struggle with? All right, I've made the decision. Now I got to wait 9 months, a year. At a minimum 6 months, which is a long ass time. And what they don't realize is that time before that date allows them to do the art of the change, as opposed to the milestone date, because the days of, it's very rare that somebody takes the uniform off and hasn't done any thought up until midnight that night about what they're going to do differently the next day. Cam, what are your thoughts?
Thoughts on that, or what I learned?
Yeah, no, I said thoughts on that. I didn't say what you learned.
Okay, I just wasn't sure, because I thought
how many shows have we done? Kathy, you are an instigator. Look at her.
I wasn't sure if that was what you learned, because sometimes you play with the language a little bit on that, so I just had to check there. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. The thing that was coming to mind for me was that it's like recognizing that like the pain is like the necessity for that growth with it, that a lot of the times we put it off, the March 1st is coming. And it's like, I don't want to really do anything because it feels like a lot, but it's like, hey, in reality, the more you can work on those things ahead of time, the more you can kind of get some of that pain out of the way, because that pain is what's going to cause you to grow with that position, whatever that change is. And so I think recognizing that that's an important piece of it. And also the other thing that comes to mind is just visualization. I know this is more the sports world, especially, but it's like, hey, look, how many times do I get to play the game? Just once on Saturday. What am I doing until then? Visualizing what I need to do during that game. And I think that's the way that you could really prepare yourself for that situation there.
Yeah. Well, and now what I did learn is is how.
Better not say the same damn thing.
Damn thing I said earlier. No, it ain't the same damn thing, because that wouldn't be fair to our listeners. Because what I learned is that, I've done the Strengths Finders a couple of times, and it is such a great tool to help continue to build on that skill set of self-awareness and mindfulness. And it gives you that, oh yeah, all right, that makes sense. That's how I show up and be my authentic self. And I think that's such a great tool to think of. And Cameron, how about you? What'd you learn?
For me, I think, as funny as like the astrology example was with that, Kathy, I feel like your answer really did, like, as weird as that question was, I feel like you answered it perfectly of what I've been seeing, which is like, it seems like people use it weird, but there's clearly some actual value there. Like, there's all those different pieces. And I feel like you squared all of those up perfectly on that. So it ain't astrology. It is a language framework to build on top of. And the folks who make it look like astrology are the ones who are using the framework as the entire thing and not building on it. So that was very helpful for me.
Awesome. Kathy, how about you? What'd you learn?
So this conversation was really fun. I learned in the forming, storming, norming, and performing framework that there is a little asterisk, and maybe there's some milestones along the way for assess and adapt. And oftentimes I say it in my own terminology, I'd say we take a Texas two-step from norming back to storming because of new team players or new projects or business, headwinds. And now I'm going to say, let's add in and assess and adapt. Where are we? And now that we've learned that, what do we do now? And so I'm going to add that to my little framework and take that away. And then it's just awesome to be with a veteran. So Otis, thank you for what you do in the world. My father is a veteran. And I'm endeared to your work and helping veterans find their next call of duty in the civilian world. And so thanks for what you do. And Cam, it was so great to meet you in this process, and best wishes this season, this upcoming season. I don't even know what season rugby plays in. Otis,
right now, we're busy.
Is it right now?
Oh yeah. We're in the heat of it right now.
Well, good luck to your team. And I hope y'all have a great season. Thank y'all very much for letting me be on your podcast.
Awesome. Kathy,
Dad, we might need we might need like a rugby version of the skill assessment there. I get a quiz together. We could trademark that thing, right?
Yeah.
Rugby's not my strength.
Yeah. What are your top 5 rugby positions on the pitch, right?
There we go.
That's your analogy. Kathy, how do folks find you and learn more about what you got going on?
Thank you so much. My website, KathyKersten.com, is available, and it has a contact form to reach out to me to talk all things strengths and teams. I'm active on LinkedIn, and I build quite a community there, and I enjoy tracking other people's success through that, as well as I have a podcast called Obey Your Strengths. It's kind of a historical podcast. I'm not currently recording, but there's plenty of strengths stories and inspiration there. Those 3 things would be a great place to find me. I'm also a little bit on YouTube, not so much. My maximizer focuses on, now I am on 10X Your Team. Woo woo. So thank you so much. It was fun.
Awesome. Kathy, it's been a real pleasure having you here today.
Well, great. Thank you guys. I hope y'all have a great rest of your week.
Thanks. Cam, run us out.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Kathy Kersten, for joining us today. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass it along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, that full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next time.